Toy Story. 3 movies have been released, and along with them came 3 games based on those movies, and that's what I'm here to look at. Not only will I be reviewing the movies, but I'll also be taking a look at the games that go with them. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at the Toy Story franchise. Toy Story was a classic before it even hit theaters because it was the very first feature-length CGI film ever created. Created by Pixar, Toy Story was a true benchmark in the world of filmmaking and has inspired a huge list of CG films since, both from Pixar and DreamWorks. The story is about a group of toys who are owned by a little boy named Andy. Andy's favorite toy is a cowboy doll named Woody, who is soon kicked to the side by a brand new space toy named Buzz Lightyear. However, Buzz actually thinks he's the real Buzz Lightyear character and doesn't realize he's just a toy. Andy's liking of Buzz sends Woody into a jealous rage as he tries to knock Buzz behind a desk but accidentally knocks him out the window. They then fall into the hands of the evil neighbor boy, Sid. It's then their mission to return home to Andy. I love this film's story. It's one of those movies that just really draws you in, and it's not really the visual style that does it either. One of the things about Toy Story and so many other Pixar films is that you forget that they're CG films. You get so engrossed by the story and the characters that you begin to believe that they're all real. Also, one of the things that separates Pixar from DreamWorks is Pixar's ability to make their films fun for the whole family. Toy Story's look might give it the false impression that it's just a kid's film, but Pixar throws jokes in there that are funny for the adults too. But unlike DreamWorks, these jokes won't offend kids. Surprisingly, my favorite joke in the entire film is just one line, and that's when Woody calls Buzz Mr. Lightbeer. That might seem like a small joke, but at the time, that joke was really something to hear in a family film. Also, Pixar does a great job of character development, which says a lot for the writers because it's really challenging making the audience feel like they know these characters. You can tell right off the bat that these characters have a history in the Toy Story world. While the movie might not explain much of that history, we feel like we already know it, and in turn, we feel like we know these characters and can relate to these characters. The writers at Pixar are truly gifted, and the fact that they were able to pull that off shows how gifted they really are. Also, from a fan's perspective, and I might be alone on this, but there really is no true villain in the film. This is something that the creators of Toy Story have pointed out as well. A lot of viewers have pointed to the character of Sid being the villain in the film, but he really isn't. All he really is another kid who's playing with his toys. Granted, he's definitely a bad kid who is not nearly as innocent as the character of Andy, but that's all he is. That's what makes Toy Story unique. It's just about toys and the kids who play with them. There are no true villains, and that's what makes it stand out. The look of the film is wonderful, and despite almost being 20 years old, the film looks great today. There are certain things about the film where you can tell Pixar would improve on later on in their films. The first thing is the scale of some of the objects. Some objects in the film, like pencils, dressers, yo-yos, and other smaller items, are not as big as they would be in real life. This is most likely to do with both Pixar's budget and the limitations of the CG back then. The second flaw is another tiny one, and it again has to do with the limitations back then, and that's how the characters move. Overall, they move fine, but they aren't as fluent as they would become in Pixar's later films. The acting is just phenomenal. Not only are the voice actors great, but Pixar did a great job animating the expressions on the characters to match up with the voices. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen take the lead roles of Woody and Buzz and are just fantastic. Neither were really known for voice acting, but they pulled off both roles beautifully. Don Rickles, Jim Varney, Annie Potts, Wallace Shawn, etc. Just this well-rounded cast of veteran actors, and none are out of place. Everyone fits into the characters they're playing. So overall, Toy Story is simply a classic. I love this film. It's just one of those films that doesn't age. It has an innocent story that appeals to both kids and adults. The characters are lovable, and the look of the film is truly amazing. Like most hit Disney films, there has to be a game to tie into it, and that's going to lead us into Toy Story the game. I'm going to be playing the Super Nintendo version of this game. It was released on different consoles, but all versions have the same gameplay and overall look. It's kind of a mix of a 2D and 3D side-scroller. You play the character of Woody as you go through a variety of levels that are meant to resemble environments from the movie. Your enemies consist of toy planes, toy trains, and balloons filled with what looks like pebbles. Most of the levels have you climbing up dressers and shelves to get around. You have to bounce off of tennis balls and other toy balls to get over buckets or blocks that might be in your way. Throughout the levels you also collect stars, and to tell you the truth, in the time that I played the game, I really don't know what the stars do. Your weapon in the game is Woody's pull string, and you use that to stop the planes and trains briefly and pop the balloons in the levels. The pull string can also be used to knock things off of shelves and open things. For instance, in the first level you use it to open the bucket where the toy soldiers are, and you also use it for the baby monitor. The pull string can be used to swing off of various hooks in the game to help you get to shelves or other things that you have to stand on. The music is really good. It's very addicting and matches up with the game very well. There are flaws with the game. For one, actually going up to the shelves, dressers, and bookcases can be problematic because you have to get to them from jumping off a block or bouncing off a ball. However, there are clearly shelves that you can reach from just jumping on the ground, but the game won't let you, which makes no sense. Also, there are moments when you do jump off a block and bounce off a ball, and it looks like you should land on the shelf, but you don't. You go right through it. That gets rather annoying. Also, the pull string that you use to swing from hook to hook is a bit faulty. You have to be very accurate with it. If you're off the mark by just a little bit, you'll completely miss the hook. But there are moments where it looks like you're on the mark, but you still miss it and you'll fall. In all honesty, I loved this game up until level 5. This is one of apparently 2 levels where you control RC, and boy, is it a pain in the ass. Toy Story seemed to take a note from Who Framed Roger Rabbit for the NES, and it was a bad note for them to copy down because RC is the biggest pain when it comes to control. You have to go through a track, and in order to keep RC's battery full, you hit Buzz throughout the track. Every time you hit him, he drops a battery and RC picks it up. However, keeping that battery full sucks. You have to really be careful with RC. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you go, that battery drains at the same speed. And if you hit a wall, he'll spin out of control or go backwards and becomes almost impossible to control. The real bitch of the level is the last time you hit Buzz. Once I actually managed to get to the last Buzz, I hit him and he flies up towards the screen and then the screen goes black. I thought this meant I beat the level, but it either said game over or started me back at the beginning of the track. Apparently, if your battery runs out while the last Buzz is still flying up towards the screen, you lost. That is bullshit! By the time I finally managed to get past that level, I had no lives left, which meant once I died in level 6, it was game over and I had to start back at the beginning of the damn game! Okay, on a bright note, the game looks good considering its age. It's colorful and the characters look and move the same way as they do in the movie. So Traveler's Tales really paid attention to detail when it came to the characters and the look of the game. So overall, it's fun until level 5. It's a nice looking game, the music is good, and it follows the story very well. So this should have been a great game, but because it goes from incredibly easy to frustratingly difficult so quickly, it ruins the experience.